The night the stars fell, the sky over Nevada burned a strange shade of violet. Eli Turner was used to seeing strange things in the desert. Military drones, mirages, sometimes tourists who swore they saw UFOs. But this was different. The light came down in silence, not like an explosion or a meteor. It shimmered, split the horizon, and vanished behind a ridge 30 miles north of his trailer. He should have ignored it. He was a mechanic, not a dreamer. But something in his chest, maybe curiosity, maybe destiny, made him grab his flashlight, his old pickup, and drive toward the glow. The desert at night was endless. The wind whispered like a warning. The violet afterglow still hung over the ridge when he arrived. His truck's headlights swept over broken sagebrush and scorched sand. And then, in the middle of a shallow crater, he saw it. Ship. Small, sleek, half buried in the earth. Shaped like a teardrop and made of metal that shimmered like mercury. Smoke curled from cracks along its surface. And lying next to it was a woman. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer of blue. Her hair, long and silver white, tangled across her shoulders. She wore something like armor, but it was torn and soaked with dark blood that glowed faintly under the stars. Eli's heart thundered. He jumped out of the truck and ran to her. Hey, are you okay? Her eyes fluttered open, gold like molten metal. She stared at him in confusion, murmuring something in a language he couldn't understand. Then she coughed, blood spilling from her lips, and collapsed again. Eli didn't think. He lifted her carefully, surprised at how light she was, and carried her to his truck. Whatever this was, whoever she was, she needed help. Chapter 1. The Stranger in the Desert. Eli's trailer sat at the edge of nowhere. Solar panels, a generator, and a workshop full of half-finished machines. He laid the woman on his couch, her armor cracked and leaking strange blue liquid from beneath. He ran for his first aid kit, but half the things about her anatomy didn't make sense. Her blood glowed. Her pulse was faint but not gone. When he tried cleaning her wounds, her skin shimmered like metal under heat. "What the hell are you?" he muttered, more to himself than her. Hours passed. The desert was silent except for the hum of the generator. Just before dawn she stirred. "Where am I?" she whispered, and to Eli's shock the words were in English. "You're in Nevada," he said cautiously. "Earth. You, crashed your ship." She tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "The pursuers. Did they follow?" "Pursuers?" She scanned the horizon through the window. "No, they lost the signal." "Good." Her voice carried authority, the kind that made Eli's instincts stand at attention. "I'm Eli Turner," he said. "You're safe here. What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lyra," she said finally. "Just Lyra." He didn't buy it. There was too much command in her eyes for just Lyra, but he let it go. Chapter 2: Secrets in the Sky. Over the next few days, Eli helped her recover. She healed faster than he thought possible. The wound that had looked fatal was nearly gone in 2 days, sealed by a thin layer of shimmering skin. She barely ate, mostly drinking water and something she mixed from a small vial she carried. She spoke little about where she came from, only that she was from far beyond this system. When Eli asked about her ship, she looked away. "It cannot be repaired with your tools," she said softly. Its core was ruptured. Still, Eli went out every morning, working on it like a man possessed. Machines were the one thing he understood. Even if it was alien, it was still a machine, and fixing things made him feel grounded. One evening, as the sun bled into the desert horizon, Lyra joined him by the wreck. "You risk much for someone you don't know," she said quietly. Eli shrugged. "You were hurt. I help people who are hurt. In my world, kindness like that is rare. He looked up, meeting her golden eyes. Then your world sounds like it could use more mechanics. For the first time she smiled, a small, genuine smile that softened her regal features. Chapter 3: The Hunters. On the fifth night, Eli woke to a low hum. The ground trembled. Outside, a beam of red light scanned across the desert. Lyra burst into the room, eyes wide. They've found me. Who? Assassins. From the Dominion. Eli grabbed his shotgun. Not much against spaceships, but it was all he had. Outside, a sleek black craft hovered above the ridge, light scanning the terrain. Lyra raised her hand, and a circular device on her wrist flickered to life, projecting a blue shield around the trailer. A red beam fired from the ship, hit the shield, exploded into sparks. The force shook the air. Eli ducked behind the truck. I thought you said they lost you. I underestimated their reach, she shouted, firing a burst of blue energy from her wrist. The blast hit the enemy ship, sending it spiraling into the desert floor. It didn't explode. Instead, 3 figures emerged from the wreckage, tall and armored in black suits, moving with terrifying precision. Inside, Lyra ordered. She slammed her hand on the wall, and the shield flared brighter. The assassins opened fire, energy bolts splashing against the barrier. Eli's heart raced. This wasn't a dream anymore. This was war on his doorstep. Lyra's strength was failing. The barrier flickered. She looked at him. Eli, if they breach it, you must run. Not happening, he said. If we're doing this, we're doing it together. He ran to his workshop, grabbing a device he'd been tinkering with, a magnetic pulse generator meant to disable drones. When the assassins broke through the shield, Eli triggered it. A shockwave rippled through the air. The assassin's armor sparked and froze for a split second. Lyra seized the moment, raising her hand and unleashing a burst of light so bright it turned night into day. When Eli's vision cleared, the assassins were gone, nothing left but scorched sand. Lyra collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Eli ran to her. Are you hurt? No, she whispered. But now they will know where I am. Chapter 4. The Truth Revealed. The next morning, silence returned to the desert. Eli repaired what he could of the trailer, though he knew this peace wouldn't last. He found Lyra outside, staring at the horizon. You're not telling me everything, he said finally. She looked at him, her expression heavy with something between regret and pride. No, I am not. Then tell me. Who are you really? Lyra hesitated, then raised her wrist device. A hologram projected from it. A vast city of crystal towers floating above a gas giant, fleets of ships orbiting its glowing rings. In the center stood a palace of light. I am Lyra Valinoris, she said. Empress of the Celestian Dominion. Or I was before the coup. Eli stared speechless. Empress. My people span thousands of worlds, she continued. But my council betrayed me. They feared my reforms. Peace with the border systems, democracy among the colonies. They sent assassins to erase me. Eli rubbed his forehead. And you crash-landed here. On Earth. An unaligned world. I thought I could hide, recover, then find allies. She looked at him. But you, Eli Turner, risked everything for me without knowing who I was. No one in my empire would have done that. He looked away uneasy. I didn't do it for a title. I know, she said softly. That's why it matters. Chapter 5. The Signal. Days passed in uneasy quiet. Lyra spent hours repairing her communicator, hoping to contact loyalists. Eli helped where he could, though most of her tech was beyond him. One night, as he watched her work, she spoke suddenly. Eli, if my people find me, I must return. I have a duty to end this war. Yeah, he said quietly. Figured as much. You would not come with me. He laughed softly. I'm a mechanic from nowhere. I wouldn't fit in with an empire. She studied him, eyes softening. You underestimate yourself. Before he could reply, the communicator chimed. Lyra froze. A signal. A loyal ship. It found me. Her eyes shone with relief, then turned to fear. Wait. The signature, no. That's not. The ground shook. A shadow fell over the desert. A massive ship, black and angular, descended from the sky, blotting out the moon. They've come for me, she whispered. The High Regent's fleet. Eli grabbed his pulse device. Then we fight again. No, Lyra touched his arm. You cannot fight this. There are hundreds aboard. Then what are we supposed to do? Her golden eyes hardened. I end it here. Chapter 6. The Battle for the Desert Sky. Lyra stepped outside, armor shimmering as she activated the last reserves of her power. The sky split with light as fighters poured from the mothership. Eli followed her to the crater. You're not doing this alone. She turned to him. For a moment, not an empress, just a woman burdened with impossible choices. Eli, you gave me hope when I had none. Don't let that hope die with me. Then don't make me watch you die, he said fiercely. She hesitated. Then, with a nod, she pressed her wristband into his hand. If I fall, activate this. It will call the loyal fleet. Promise me. Before he could answer, she rose into the air, energy spiraling around her. The battle was like nothing Eli had ever seen. Light clashed with darkness, plasma bolts lighting the desert in a violent storm. Lyra fought like a living star. Her energy blasts tearing through enemy ships, her movements precise and furious. But there were too many. A beam from the mothership struck her, throwing her to the ground. Eli ran, shielding her body as dust and fire rained around them. Lyra, he shouted. She opened her eyes weakly. Now, Eli, the beacon. He fumbled with the wristband, pressing the core button. A pulse of blue light shot into the sky, a beacon visible for miles. Moments later, space above them shimmered, a fleet of silver ships emerging from hyperspace. Lyra's loyalists. The desert sky erupted in a second wave of fire. Loyal and enemy ships clashed, streaks of light crossing the heavens. Eli dragged Lyra to safety as explosions thundered overhead. Minutes felt like hours. Then finally silence. The enemy fleet was gone, retreating into the void. Chapter 7. Farewell, Earth. Dawn broke over the desert, painting the sand in shades of gold. A silver transport descended from the loyal fleet. Soldiers in radiant armor stepped out, kneeling before Lyra. Your Majesty, one said, bowing deeply. The throne is yours again. Eli stood a few steps away, dirt-streaked and exhausted. He felt suddenly small in the presence of all this. Lyra turned to him. You saved me, Eli Turner. My people owe you a debt that spans worlds. He smiled faintly. Just glad you're alive. You could come with me, she said quietly. There is a place for you among the stars. He looked at the rising sun. This is my home. Someone's gotta keep the engines running down here. Lyra stepped closer, eyes shimmering. Then I will never forget you. She pressed something into his palm, a small crystal glowing faintly. If ever you call my name, this will reach me. Across light years. Then, before he could speak, she leaned forward and kissed his forehead, a gesture both regal and deeply human. She turned, boarding the ship. The hatch closed. Engines roared. Eli watched as the silver vessel rose, piercing the morning sky, until it vanished among the stars. Epilogue: The Mechanic and the Star. Months passed. The crater healed. The desert wind erased the scars of battle. Eli went back to fixing old machines, though sometimes late at night. He'd look up at the sky and see faint glimmers that didn't belong to satellites. One evening, while he worked in his shop, the crystal Lyra had given him pulsed with blue light. A hologram flickered above it, her face, radiant, crowned, standing in a throne room of starlight. "Eli Turner," her voice said, warm and strong. "The galaxy is free again. The coup is ended. I lead not as Empress, but as servant of the Union. Your courage reminded me what true power is. Not command but compassion. I will never forget the man who saved me." The message ended, but the crystal kept glowing, softly like a heartbeat. Eli smiled to himself. "Guess you didn't forget me after all." He stepped outside, gazing at the stars. Somewhere out there, an empress ruled with kindness because one desert mechanic decided to help a stranger. And as the wind whispered through the dunes, he could almost hear her voice carried across the night. "You fixed more than a ship, Eli Turner. You fixed a galaxy."